All of us are familiar with the signs as we drive into Indianapolis, welcoming us to the crossroads of America. And while we're justifiably proud of that status and our recognition, there are negative implications of that as well. We have 4 interstates that intersect into our county. There is no question that Marion County, Indianapolis is a convenient pathway and hub for the distribution of illegal drugs. Clearly, from following the news, we are experiencing a crisis in Marion County in drug dealing, drug distribution. Perhaps a crisis of unprecedented dimensions. And the ripple effect of that is apparent as well, and that is the effect upon our public safety resources, the effect upon our criminal justice system, even the effect upon our child welfare system. Heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine, marijuana, synthetic drugs, they are all here in unacceptable levels. And so, as we will explain about the process, this has been a lengthy process to achieve HIDTA designation, but we are confident that it will be an additional resource in the fight against illegal drugs being distributed throughout Indiana and in particular into Marion County. Be clear, this is not a magic bullet and will not be a resolution in and of itself, but it will be an additional significant resource in our collective fight against drug trafficking and related violence being perpetrated in the county. With that, Rick Frank is going to become prosecutor for a day.
I'm sure you have nothing to fear. I don't think it's breaking news, as Prosecutor Curry mentioned, that we have a drug issue in the Indianapolis and central Indiana area, particularly as it relates to opiates, heroin, methamphetamine, are extremely out of control. We have the 4 interstates that come together, 74, 69, 65, and 70, as Prosecutor Curry mentioned, and that equals an avenue to traffic drugs right through our community. The problem became, what do we do about that? We already have a unified front with many different agencies, from the federal government to the state government to down to our office that fights that on a daily basis. We wanted to take that to another level. Under the leadership of Prosecutor Curry, it became basically a 3 to 4 year process. And what we realized is we were one of 2 communities, major metropolitan communities, us and Minneapolis, that were not part of what's called HIDTA. And HIDTA stands for the High Intensity Drug Traffic area. We were one of 2 in the entire nation that did not receive funding from the federal government through that grant. And it's a significant resource, as Mr. Curry mentioned. So we began the process of deciding whether or not to maybe apply for our own HIDTA or maybe become part of another HIDTA. It worked out that Lake County had already been a part of that association or had their own HIDTA, and we were able to join up with them through the efforts of the prosecutor up there, and again, Mr. Curry. The Sheriff's Department became involved, Chief Hyde and the IMPD became involved, Senator Donnelly's office became involved in Washington, D.C. And honestly, it was a huge unified effort that took a long time to get it done. This assistance will help us on the street level, but it more so goes for exactly what the name says, high-intensity drug trafficking, to get the source of some of these drugs off of the city streets. We want to take a minute, or Prosecutor Curry wanted to take a minute to recognize a few more people that were involved in this overall process. Our grants manager at the prosecutor's office is Catherine Parker, Catherine Wade. She was amazing during this entire process and has done all the dirty work, the paperwork to get all this done, and it was a lot over a long period of time. I don't know how many hours she spent on the phone, but it was a lot of time to get that done. Assistant Chief Randy Taylor, Captain Chris Layton from the Sheriff's Department, and one of my prosecutors that works with me, Claire South, who's the director of the Metro Drug Task Force, was instrumental in starting this a couple of years ago. So it's another example, I think, in the Indianapolis and Marion County area where state, federal, and local agencies all work together to put something awesome together that is going to be a big help for us to fight drug activity in our area. With that, I will turn it over to the person probably mostly responsible for this, Senator Joe Donnelly.
It's an honor to be here with all of these individuals who work so hard every day to keep us safe. I've talked to Chief Riggs a number of times, and some of the conversation we've had is that we won't be happy till every family, every senior, every person who wants to sit out on their porch on a Friday night, no matter what neighborhood they live in, no matter what street they're on, to be able to sit there in peace, to be able to have a wonderful evening, to be able to mow their lawn the next day, to never have to worry about the safety of their children or grandchildren or their family from any crime or crime-related activities. And so much of this is driven by drugs that we've seen. This enables us here in Marion County to be part of HIDTA, the High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Program, where we'll be able to benefit from resources. We'll also be able to benefit from teamwork. Lake County is already part of it, is dealing with much of this. Many of the same problems they have there, we have here, and some of them shared by having I-65 that connects us. And this enables us to work even closer with the Department of Justice, with our U.S. Attorney's Office, with our police forces coordinating with each other, learning from some of the experiences of Northwest Indiana, and going full speed. I know we already are, but going even harder to try to end the scourge of opiates and of heroin. This is taking some of our most precious youth, some of our most precious gifts. It's hit all ages. So many of them are young people who have a whole life ahead of them. I look at some of the kids we've lost, and I think that young girl may have cured cancer. And that young man may have come up with a way where every child would have a chance to go to college for free. The talent, the ability, the lives that are lost, not only from the people who are taking these drugs, but from the people wasting their lives selling these materials, has to end. We have to let our people be safe. And I am very, very hopeful that HIDTA will be part of it. And these extraordinary people here, and our judges, and all of our law enforcement friends throughout the state will be our partners in this as well. So it's more partnership, more resources, and the chance to try to provide a safer life for everyone in our community.
Not to be redundant, but it's very important to recognize this was not a simple task. No one just applied for this and it went through the system. The prosecutor from the beginning met with the sheriff and the chief and knew this was going to be a long slog through the bureaucracy, which became important when Senator Donnelly stepped up and moved it through the Washington, D.C. bureaucracy, because as many of us know, that can slow things down more often than we can accomplish things. This was a huge step forward. Partnership with the Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Layton, with the prosecutor and the Central Indiana Regional Gang Unit, was one of the parts of the Sheriff's Office played with the intelligence unit. We'll continue to work together with our partners and be sure that the community is safer because of the dollars spent are spent wisely on the projects of not only the enforcement, on the prevention and the treatment. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Westfall. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge for the Drug Enforcement Administration. And my assignment is the state of Indiana. That's what I'm responsible for. I want to thank Prosecutor Curry for his efforts today, and also thank all of our elected officials for their support during this process. As mentioned before, it's not an easy process, and it's not a fix-all process, but it's a great start to what we have to do. The approval of Marion County becoming an initiative in Lake County HIDTA is good for the Hoosier State and drug law enforcement. HIDTA was created in 1988, and DEA has played a very active role with 589 special agents that are assigned in different parts of the country to HIDTAs. In my career, I have served in various assignments throughout this country, and I have seen the successes not only here in Lake County, where HIDTA started for Indiana, but also throughout the country. Drug law enforcement has changed dramatically and has become much more challenging, with drug trafficking organizations becoming more sophisticated and utilizing the advancements in technology to further their criminal enterprises. Now more than ever, it is important for law enforcement to work in a collaborative effort to identify, disrupt, and dismantle drug trafficking organizations. These criminal organizations are responsible for poisoning your communities with the heroin and the synthetic fentanyl that are a cause of lost lives. They also contribute to the violence that are going on within your communities that you witness every day on the news. The additional HIDTA resources will help strengthen our current law enforcement partnerships by 1, enhancing law enforcement intelligence sharing among federal, state, local, and tribal law enforcement agencies. 2, providing reliable intelligence to enforcement agencies to facilitate enforcement strategies and operations. And finally, 3, supporting coordinated law enforcement strategies to make the most of our available resources. As always, law enforcement itself cannot be successful without our community, partners, and our citizens. Help us by reporting drug activity, and help by reducing the demand for drugs of abuse in your communities. Together, we will win and provide safe and drug-free communities. Thank you.
First of all, let me just say thanks for being here. Let me step back just for a moment and talk about a few years ago when I was serving this city as a director of public safety. Then Prosecutor Curry came to me after having conversations with Captain Allender, Captain Holt, and others, and I think I even had a personal conversation with Captain Allender as well about HIDTA and putting in for HIDTA here in Indianapolis. And I had been familiar with that in positions I'd had before, and Terry graciously agreed to take that leadership helm and work very hard at that. And Terry, on behalf of our 2,000 employees, thank you, sir, for making this a reality. We are grateful to you, and the city should be grateful as well. All of our partners here, and I want to specifically thank the Senator for all the hard work he did. And I am amazed that it moved through so fast. Thank you, Senator, for your staff and for the leadership that you gave as well. You know, what does that mean for Indianapolis? As we have talked about the issues that face our great city from day to day, we talk about the social issues that lead to a degradation of quality of life. We talk about those issues that the Senator so graciously spoke about today, about every citizen should feel safe in their home. And unfortunately, that's not the case right now. And we know that drugs and guns has led to a lot of our violence. And we as a department have said we have to do a better job. And you've seen that from our street-level narcotics work. You've seen that out of our investigations division as they look at bigger cases. And there'll be more to come on those in the future. But just on the street level, over 100 pounds of illegal drug substance in just a few months, over 1,500 arrests, numerous guns, vehicles, money off the streets of Indianapolis. We were having a conversation earlier and talking about that makes us pleased as a department we're doing so well, but it's also alarming to know that we can put individuals on the street and take that many individuals off for selling dope and to have that many guns. What HIDTA does for us, though, it allows us to have a little bit more flexibility, to look at the people that are bringing in drugs in our community, those big drug distributors right here in Indianapolis. And so our message to the community today is that this group that's unified here today, we're not going away. We're going to be in your communities making it safe, as the Senator mentioned. But also to those that have been selling and peddling drugs for quite some time, I think the message should be very clear to them too. We're not going away either. Thank you for being here today.
Questions? Chief, in what way will this increase flexibility in targeting people who are bringing this from outside the community?
Right. I'm not going to give away all the investigative secrets, but I will say ASAC Westfall brought up, technology. And as much as the bureaucracy is to get this into place, this allows us to be nimble. Let me give you an example of how this works. With our new beat officers getting information, giving that to our new detectives in narcotics in the field, and they make a case. They work with our information center that's new. As they generate information, we share that with our federal authorities. They can look at a bigger scope. They can look at if there's any ties to national or international ties. And we can start working on that pipeline coming here to Indianapolis. That will have a profound effect on drug use and drug availability in this city. Now, that's only part of the issue. I would be remiss if I didn't mention, we also have to have a conversation as a community about the voracious appetite for drugs that Americans have. And we have to get that under control. That will help a lot more than HIDTA and what we're doing on the streets, but this is part of it, certainly.
We mentioned over and over, there'll be additional resources. How much will we need? What are those additional resources?
Well, there's going to be money, there's going to be analysts, there's going to be additional people working throughout the state of Indiana collectively. I can't say enough for Superintendent Carter and all the partnerships that he's given us. This is going to let us come together and build upon that relationship we already have with additional resources, with additional information. And one of the things that the federal government is tremendously helpful is with technology that we simply can't afford, but they can't afford because they work on more of a global. Now, to get into that information, we won't, but it's certainly going to be a big help to us in investigations. Terry, do you want to?
Yeah, if I could speak to that as well. Obviously, we received word as of this month that the official designation. At this point, as we're here today, we do not know what sort of initial funding level we will receive. It will be some amount. What amount that is, we don't know. But it will be a funding level pretty much initially, and then on an annual basis going forward. And as the chief has indicated, it can go for equipment, it can go for overtime, and in particular, modernizing our equipment. And I will not repeat it, but as everyone has indicated, the intangible benefit as well is just as important in terms of the coordination with Lake County and HIDTAs throughout the country.
Do you know how much funding Lake County is to work with?
As vice chair of the executive board that administers the HIDTA program, annually the Lake County HIDTA, which encompasses now Lake, Porter, LaPorte, and Marion County, will receive approximately $3.3 million. And then that money is divided amongst the initiatives, and then again, as the prosecutor said, to pay for the equipment and the overtime and other avenues to help further these drug investigations. And one of the keys I think that has been talked about is also the fact that this puts the pieces of the puzzle together. This allows Marion County to communicate with other HIDTA counties as well as other law enforcement agencies around the nation, as well as internationally, about the drug trafficking organizations, as well as connecting the pipes, if you will, of who's where, because we live in a mobile society. This is another way that we can work together, collaborate as police agencies. That money will further that as we move along.
And Peg, I don't know if she's already done so, but I anticipate we have a fact sheet which we can distribute if you don't already have it. It has more detail about the operation.
How do you qualify to be, do you have to show a certain amount of seizures or overdoses?
I'll answer that.
Well, I just wanted to go back to that other question for a second and then to that. It's not only funds, but it's also the presence of coordination, of working together, of working with our teammates in Northwest Indiana. 589 agents in the DEA are working specifically on HIDTA programs. That now includes us here. And so we're part of that family, we're part of that team. And so it's not only resources financially, but it's also the ability for all of us to pick up a phone, call and say, does this pattern look familiar? Is this something that you can spot? Is there a way that you can help us with this? And so there's all of those additional law enforcement working together aspects as well.
And to answer your question, what's involved in the application process is first and obviously to demonstrate that there's a high-intensity drug trafficking going on. But what that involves is demonstrating by data and anecdotal information the volume of level of drug trafficking is going on, as well as the corresponding impact upon violent crime. And then as part of the process, we identify initiatives that then would benefit from being designated as a HIDTA. And so that included some existing task force here in central Indiana, Achilles, which is an ATF-led task force, Safe Streets, FBI, Metro Drug, a number of task force already in existence, the Metro Drug, Gang Unit that Lieutenant Colonel Forstall referred to. So the application process involved describing all of those initiatives and how we would utilize additional funding and intelligence going forward with those initiatives.
without specifically talking about how you're going to do some of this, keeping drugs from coming in and out of the community, can you talk about the effect you want to see down the road in neighborhoods around Indianapolis in terms of just less drugs being out there, being available?
Well, ultimately, we want to meet our goals as a department to reduce crime, reduce the fear of crime, enhance public safety, and get back to what Senator Donnelly talked about, is that individual wants to sit on their porch at night and let their children play in their front yard, they should be able to. We will see success not because we make more arrests, and that's going to be part of this in the beginning. We'll see success when we see crime going down, and we see seizures going down, and we see the guns and the weapons we're taking off the street. When they start going down with that increased focus, that's when we'll start seeing success. That's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take all of these partners. And I did mention before, but with Sheriff Layton and having the jail, and then also, don't forget, they have individuals on the street as well, and we've coordinated together. And I think what you're seeing is Terry was able to lead this charge and show not only we're ready for this, but that we already have coordination between the major departments in the city of Indianapolis. And that's why I think that ultimately it's going to be successful. But I will warn everyone, as I do normally, don't expect things to change immediately because it takes time. These are ingrained issues. Sometimes they're bigger than Indianapolis, but that was the missing point before. Now we have that part that's going to be filled in with HIDTA.
Thank you for being here today.